I hate timeout. The best way I can explain why it's so awful is imagine if you were at work and you made a mistake and your boss said, okay, so you're 36 years old, you made that mistake, you go sit in the corner for 36 minutes and you think about what you did. And then afterwards, I'm going to give you a lecture. Think about it. It's humiliating.
Timeouts don't seem to be effective as he'll tell me no and hit again.
You really have some work to do. Remember, we're not fixing kids, we're fixing and teaching parenting here. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what are we talking about this week? By the way, I just got a lecture on the way I talk about something, so I'm going to be very careful in this episode. She's the boss here, so it's my daughter here. Anyway, what are we going to be talking about, sweetie?
So the topic is timeouts, why you think they don't work, and what you would recommend instead.
Okay. Do you want me?
If we want to know what the lecture was about, it's because every single time I give her the topic, 9 times out of 10 she goes,
Yeah, I go, ugh, I hate that one. But then I end up yabbering on for ages anyway.
So I may have said off air, I go, Moms seem a little bit more excited about the topics.
Hard to do when it's timeout. God, I hate timeout. Well, I guess I could get passionate talking about it because I hate it so much, because it's so commonly used and I'm sure it's still being taught. By the way, if anyone's been following me for any amount of time, they know that I've never looked at what anyone else is teaching out there. The only reason I even know what's out there is because parents come to me after using these things saying, well, it's everywhere. So that's the only reason. So I want to make that very clear. I stay in my own lane. I only teach what I know through my own personal experience. Anyway, I hate timeout. And the best way I can explain why it's so awful is imagine if you were at work and you made a mistake and your boss said, okay, so you're 36 years old, you made that mistake, you go sit in the corner for 36 minutes and you think about what you did. And then afterwards, I'm going to give you a lecture. Okay, think about it. It's humiliating. It's mean. And it doesn't help anyway. It's just it's perhaps preventing that mistake again only because fear of being humiliated again. That is not what I want to teach children. I just think it's horrible. I think it's mean. Can't stand it. And then you also said, what do we do instead? If they're under the age of 3, you use consistent corrective actions. I've gone through that a million times. It's in the behavior board. If you're interested, it also has a toddler section explaining all that. So consistent corrective actions mean if they do something naughty, you just say a quick no. And then you take fun away from them or them away from the fun just temporarily. It's got to be quick though. Toddlers are in the moment. A toddler to me is 16 to 35 months. If they're 36 months and over, which is 3 years old, use the behavior board and you put down a rule and then there's a consequence. Timeout is just not effective. You might get results from it, but it's not the way you want. And they're going to rebel. When you make kids feel bad, they do bad. Eventually that'll catch up with you. It's one of those things that might work right now. It's short-term gain for long-term pain though. It'll backfire down the road because you're humiliating them. You're demeaning them. Imagine if your spouse did that. Well, I didn't like the fact that you weren't ready in time to go out the other night, so I want you to sit in the corner and think about what you did. It's why you wouldn't do that to an adult, and yet you do it to your kids. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think there's a few things in parenting like that.
Whole bunch of stuff. And I often relate it to parents, and that's when they get it. They go, oh, you're right. I would feel horrible if someone did that to me. And yet it's so commonly done to children. Whereas I've never done timeout. I never would. I think it's awful.
So just to circle back, before 16 months, how do you handle that?
Just redirection. They're just learning right from wrong. By 16 months, 18 months and over, they kind of are getting it. They've usually heard no enough that they know it's wrong. But then you can start to use consistent corrective actions. But before that, it's just redirection. Say, oh, no. And you can say a quick no, like you can just go no, and then you just redirect.
And then just to circle back on the Bratbusters behavior board, you can access that when you join the newsletter at bratbusters.com. Okay, do we want to get into the questions?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, so the first one here is Melissa from the United States. Our 3-year-old boy attends daycare and frequently hits his teacher when being told no. It's a classic tantrum. At home, we have started using the behavior board to target hitting, and the consequences are favorite toy and timeout, and then loss of screen time. The daycare uses timeout, which usually leads to the hitting or additional hitting. My question is, should I give him a consequence at home for hitting at daycare? I don't want to punish him again since he was already punished at daycare, but we really need to stop his hitting before he is expelled. Thank you.
Yeah, you need to address it at home. By the way, I never judge what a daycare or a school does because I have no expertise in that. I've never run a daycare. I've never taught a class. So you let them do whatever they do. They do what works for them in their daycare. So yeah, never micromanage someone looking after your own kids. Sorry, my voice is starting to go again. I talk for a living. So anyway, so yeah, I would put down no hitting on the behavior board. Make sure that the daycare people tell you, they report to you, and don't take up a lot of their time. By the way, they're very busy. They could just send you a quick text or a quick email. He hit today, and that's it. Okay, and you don't go on about it. All these big discussions are total waste of time. So you just say, okay, you hit at daycare today. Here's your consequence. Put it on the board, no hitting, and then when he comes home, he does get a consequence. Don't micromanage the daycare. Let them do whatever they've got to do. But eventually he'll learn because you're teaching him. You're the leader. By the age of 3 to 4, somewhere in there, they become whoever they are with the leader, like you, if you're a leader, they become that way no matter where else they are.
I think that, especially if this is someone's first podcast, I think maybe we should touch on, I think maybe you should touch on the idea of not discussing the bad behavior and your thoughts around that.
You deal with bad behavior, then you focus on the good kid. The best way to get this message is to look at my pool story. It's on, if you Google it, just Google Bratbusters pool story. It'll pop up tons of places. And it's based on how it's everything I do, really. I don't let anything go. You will be at first, by the way, when you're learning how to do this, but I come in I'm level 10 with what I teach because I invented all this stuff. I would never let anything go. But I never address attitude. Attitude just means you're not a leader. Attitude just means they don't respect you. Their bad attitude towards you is a sign that you got some work to do on yourself. Okay, that's all that is. But I do deal with behavior. So you deal with bad behavior very fast, get it over and done with, and then you focus on the good kid. Where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. My goal is always that kids feel good about themselves. They feel responsible. Kids who are acting out don't have any pride. They don't feel good about themselves. That's why I want to correct that, and I guide them into making better choices by making them feel good. If you feel good, you do good. If you feel bad, you do bad. Okay, you want to make your kids feel good, not bad.
Okay. The next one is Stacy from the United States. So my son is almost 5 years old and has recently started hitting me, mom, and dad. I've tried ignoring, discussing, redirecting, and timeouts. Timeouts don't seem to be effective as he'll tell me no and hit again. I'll carry him to his room for a reset and he'll come right back out. Dad and I aren't violent people, nor is he ever around that behavior. He does have one bully in his pre-K class, though.
Okay. It's unusual for them to start hitting at 5. You really have some work to do. Remember, we're not fixing kids, we're fixing and teaching parenting here. Put on the behavior board, no hitting. When he hits, there's a consequence. These timeouts, this diversion, that's all garbage. It doesn't work. So yeah, there has to be a consequence. We all learn through consequences. If we were to speed and the cop pulled us over and said, hey, look, there's a bike. Why don't you ride that for a while? That's diversion. How ridiculous is that, right? Doesn't make any sense at all. It's not addressing the problem. He's going to give you a speeding ticket and it's going to be fast. And he's going to say, okay, drive carefully. Have a good day. And it's over, okay? It's about consequences. That's what stops us from speeding, not the possibility that we might be handed a bike to ride, right? The diversion. And then time out. A cop doesn't pull you over and say, you go sit down there in the gully for about 10 minutes. You think about what you did, and then I'll give you a lecture when you come out. I'd probably speed even more after that. I'd be so mad. So yeah, think about it. Think about it. Consequences. No anger, no discussions. Just do it. It's all the discussing around this. It's just where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. Why do you want to discuss bad behavior? Just deal with it. They already understand it. He knows. He's 5 years old. He actually, I'm sure he's smart enough to understand he shouldn't hit. Don't discuss it. It's the discussions that make you look weak. You look pathetic when you start discussing it. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you hit, so here's your consequence. That's all I would say. Done. And then follow through with the board. It explains how you do that. Behavior board's completely free. It's on my website, bratbusters.com.
Maybe I'll touch on the idea of the reasoning that I see online behind discussing is I think that some of these parents were possibly raised with the my way or the highway approach. And their thought process is, I wouldn't want to discipline my child without explaining why I am. I think that might be the reasoning. Do you want to touch on that?
I disagree wholeheartedly. The reason is it's revenge. You want to get it out. It's for you. It's not for your child. They already know. You know they already know. You're only doing it to feed yourself. It's revenge. Think about it. Now, let's say you made a mistake with your spouse. You already know that they want you to be on time. It's something important to them, but you're running late as usual, right? It drives them nuts. Now, would them lecturing you on that help at all, or would it make you dig your heels in even more? You don't want to be lectured. Why do you lecture your kids? They already know. It's for you. It feels good to sort of get it out of your system. And another thing I don't like about you, and it's just revenge. I challenge this every time I'm coaching and someone tries to bring that up. They get a 5-minute lecture from me. And they kind of agree. They say, I get it. They are. I say, do they already know? Right, they do, but don't put the but in there. They already know. The more you focus, where you put your focus, where you put your energy is what grows. If you're putting your focus and your energy into discussing bad behavior, you're going to get more of it.
Okay, we'll go on to the next question. So, Jocelyn from Australia. Hi, Lisa. I have a 5-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl, and we've entered the phase of endless petty fighting. One common situation is when Miss 2 gives Mr. 5 a very half hearted little punch. He'll come running to me saying, Mom, she hit me, then runs back to her to gloat, which winds her up even more and kicks off another round. It often escalates until someone actually gets hurt. I try the consequence to consequence each child based on who starts it, but it just keeps cycling and turns into a brawl. I'm not sure how to handle this in a way that actually teaches them something, especially how to consequence my 5-year-old appropriately when they're both clearly winding each other up. Also, I'm struggling how to remove the fun from Miss 2. I find myself putting her on a chair to separate her, but it ends up feeling like timeout, which I don't want to do. What else can I do in the moment, especially when I also need to give a consequence to the 5-year-old? I'm seriously pulling out my hair here. I want to add that your approach has helped me stop yelling, and that's made a huge difference. So thank you for that.
I don't even want to answer this question because I got too many questions before I want to answer. So, okay, I'll just try and generalize, but every time I get a question like that, I think I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. You got to watch those kids like a hawk. Usually it's the older one antagonizing the younger one, or excluding them from something, which is the same thing. So you've got the way that you manage that, I'm assuming it's the older one causing it. And the younger one's feeling excluded in some way. So you say to the 5-year-old, if you have anything that you want to play with and not be interrupted, you go in your room, or you can go in our room and take that toy in there. If you're not willing to share and it's just your toy. But if you're out in a family area, you have to share, and then watch them like a hawk. Is the 5-year-old playing nicely? Or are they grabbing stuff off the 2-year-old, which antagonizes the 2-year-old? The 2-year-old hits or bites or kicks or whatever. So yeah, you got to figure, it's a bit of a puzzle is what I'm saying. But it usually is the older one that's causing it, or interpreted as causing it from the younger one because they're being excluded or told, oh, you can't do it, you're stupid, or something like that. You see, it's usually the older one that starts it. So, but you got to figure that out though. So say, look, if you don't want to share and you don't want to play nice with your little sister, you go in your room or our room and take your toys in there, whatever. And they don't like doing that. They'll eventually learn how to share. That's the idea.
Okay, we have Jessica from New Zealand. I have 2 boys, 1-year-old and 2.8-year-old. My toddler is very needy. My fault. I was a pleaser parent. In the process of correcting, your methods are working to an extent. My toddler will do anything to get my attention and cuddles. He will scream, kick, hit, and throw himself into me to stop me breastfeeding or putting his brother to sleep. I say no, calmly remove myself or him. He will run after us, screaming loud. You say no timeout, but locking him in a different room is the thing that calms him. I feel bad and do not like this method. Distractions do not work. Food does not work. He wants me to cuddle with him. What will help?
Okay, the reason why walking him in a different room is you're with him, so he's getting the attention that he wants. So I'm assuming that's what you're doing. Otherwise, it's not going to calm him if you send him in there alone, which I don't do anyway. So yeah, do you play with him enough? Or when you are playing, is it all just you've always got the 1-year-old and it's always sort of catered to the 1-year-old? So do you play with that 2.5-year-old enough? That's what I'm wondering. Almost sounds like maybe you don't. Am I on? That's my only response to that. Just a few things that were said in there. I kind of thought maybe he is feeling a bit neglected, and maybe rightly so.
Now, you've said in previous podcasts that you always play to the younger one's level. How does that come into play
when you're doing
here?
group play? But here, you're breastfeeding. Okay, you're already doing a lot more with the 1-year-old. Because you said you're breastfeeding, right? That 1-year-old, it's already imbalanced. Once the 1-year-old's off the breast and you don't have all that cuddle time, you see where I'm saying? It's already really imbalanced. And you're not breastfeeding the 2.5-year-old, so he's not getting that. That's why I'm saying he doesn't want to be breastfed, but he wants the same affection that he sees you giving to the little one. That's what I'm assuming. He's feeling a bit left out. So maybe when the little one has a nap, maybe you could play with him more in his world. And then when you are going to breastfeed, say, oh, here, and then have a goodie bag. I always recommend goodie bags for shopping or for restaurants, or if you're breastfeeding, have a special goodie bag that only comes out during those times. And it's different every single time. It has a little healthy drink, a healthy snack, little like cheap toys from the dollar store, whatever, thrown in there. And it's different every time. I used to have a basket on top of the fridge, I think it was. Can't remember. Anyway, and it just had all these little cheap things in there. Sometimes it was just a toilet roll cut into little rings, and I'd tape it all together like a little Christmas, what do they call that? A garland. Just little things. Like it's not always even something I bought. It was just something I put together, and it was new. They like new stuff. They would rather have, usually, unless it's a screen, they'd usually rather have something new that's not that exciting than the same old exciting thing day after day after day. You see what I mean? Something new. Didn't you know I was giving you toilet rolls at the supermarket when we went shopping?
No, I think this might be a timely time to bring up the Easter hat parade bag of fabric.
I don't want to talk about that. That makes me look really bad. Okay, here's the thing. I was a sewer. I still am. Actually, I haven't had time to sew lately. But anyway, and I made all of our clothes, my kids' clothes, my clothes. And so I had all these scraps, and I'm not a quilter. I have quilted, but I decided I don't like the look of quilts. So why would I make some I don't even like the look of? So quilters famously need scraps. I didn't need scraps. So whenever anything was going on at school and they asked for supplies, they'd get a bag of fabric. So my kids were like, they said we didn't even bring it out. We were so embarrassed. It was all these little scraps of fabric.
Oh, sorry, Mom forgot.
And the teachers knew I wouldn't have forgot anything. I was on top of everything. And they were probably thinking, we know you've got a bag of fabric in your backpack. We just don't want to bring it out. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Backpack's like
stuff. And I had a lot of fabric scraps.
Seams.
But then I also learned that you can use fabric scraps to stuff pillows. If you put enough polyfill in there and mix it up with fabric scraps, just a little sewing tip in there. So I did end up using up a lot of scraps, made a lot of dog beds of them. And I made a lot of dog beds that I donated to the shelter. But you got to be careful, because if it's a big dog that chews, this fabric scraps are very dangerous. So it would only go to the little dogs that didn't chew stuff. So, but yeah, I did end up using all those scraps. Well, my kids didn't want them, so I had to find another way to use them. My son, this was so funny. He was really funny, really witty. And he had this friend that had a mom who was like me. Actually, we were friends, his mom and I. And we were very like on top of everything. We're very organized, right? So he said that, yeah, we were going to be making these Easter hats, because in Australia, where my kids were born and raised, they have the Easter hat parade. And you have to make an Easter hat, and it's supplies that were brought from home. And you make your own Easter hat, and then they'd parade it around wearing these stupid Easter hats. It was so cute, though. Anyway, and he says his friend was next to him. Should I say the name of his friend? Does it matter? Never, I won't say it. Anyway, he was next to him, and he said he came with a tool belt full of the most phenomenal supplies. This is the other mother, right? With a glue gun. It had all these gorgeous supplies, all sorts of foils and different stuff. And he said, you gave me a bag of fabric scraps. So his friend ended up sharing the stuff that the other mom. We all had a good laugh over that later.
It's giving the same energy as the Seinfeld episode with the muffin stumps.
Oh, if anyone watches Seinfeld, you know what we're talking about.
Just trying to.
I was the muffin stump mom. Whereas the other mom was the top of the muffin to you. Yeah, exactly. So my son was the way he told that story too. And the kid did not have a tool belt, but he made it sound like this kid was like ready for it. It was great.
Okay, the next question is Kayla from the United States. Almost 2.5-year-old boy, is there a difference between whining and constant real tears? He tends to have days where everything is a battle and it's whining, but then it turns into constant real tears. We've tried redirecting, timeouts, removing him from the fun, but seems like some days he will not stop. We do not give in to not reinforce the behavior, but it doesn't stop and makes our family day very difficult and hard to be around him.
Okay. This could be it. Maybe he's bored. Do you do a toy rotation system? It kind of helps the boredom. So you rotate every week, you pull out different toys, and he only has a few toys out at any given time. Also, his toys should be creative. He sounds like he might just be bored. And I don't do timeout or the things you recommended that you said you did. that aren't working anyway. Okay, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. And this is 16 to 35 months approximately. 16 months is a bit of a gray area. It could be 18 months. But 16 months, a lot of them are ready for all this. Anyway, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3, connect with your toddlers in their world, not your world. You don't take them to the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They look at you differently when you do that. Number 4 is discipline your toddlers in their world. They're not about words. They're about actions, okay? So stop with these mini therapy sessions. You use consistent corrective actions. If they do something naughty, you say a quick no, and you're always calm. There's no anger. You say a quick no, and then you remove the fun from them or them from the fun just temporarily. And they'll learn eventually. This is a slow burn. It's going to take repetition, repetition, repetition. And number 5, stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed upstairs. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and the first year you're a potato laying on a mattress. They are just forming, okay? So that's it. Did that answer that? I lost track there. I was going on. Yeah, they might just be bored, whining and crying. They're not happy, but they'd be a lot happier if they had new stuff to look at. By the way, they don't care about big fancy stuff. They care about new. The toddler years, a couple of years there, they're the discovery phase. Everything's a discovery. Everything. I gave my granddaughter I'd finished with a bottle of water or something, and I gave her that, and it makes that crinkly sound. Well, geez, you'd think I'd given her $1,000 toy. She played with that forever. Yeah, so it's something new. It doesn't have to be exciting. It's something new. And then I thought, what if I put something in it, like the rice or something that made a noise? But then I was worried she'd unscrew the cap, and that was the end of that idea. But anyway.
You know what'd be good in there?
What?
Fabric scraps.
Oh, that'd be great. Oh, I got lots of those. You know what's so funny is it got to be a joke, like, oh, what should I make for dinner? How about some fabric scraps? I was trying to use fabric scraps everywhere. The car is broken. Oh, just throw some fabric on it.
We don't use tissues in this house.
So fabric scraps. I know what I could do with that. Oh, it's true. We're not even exaggerating. It got so ridiculous, like me and my fabric. Because when I was buying it wholesale because I made all our clothes. So I was and I had tons of scraps left over. I didn't know what to do. And I hate waste. What would you say about me with waste? It is bizarre how much I hate waste. I don't mind spending money, but I hate wasting money.
You have such an aversion to it.
It almost gives me the chills, the thought of wasting something. My mom said, you were born in the wrong century. Like, I can make do and mend with anything. Well, because I have fabric. Okay, let's go.
Okay,
Another
Monica
question.
from the United States. Hi, Lisa. I have 2 daughters, 12 and 6. I tried timeouts a few years ago, but before I found you in your boot camp and haven't used them since. There have been a few times when my youngest would have friends over, and if something happened and she got too upset, she would put herself in timeout. She will tell me she's putting herself in timeout because she's mad and explain the situation, then sit separated for 5 to 20 minutes. Do I let her to continue to do this, or should I do something else?
It's wonderful. She's saying, I need some space, or else I might say something I shouldn't say. No, that's wonderful. She's pulling herself away. That's called self-discipline. That's what you want. Okay, no, that's wonderful. And then you don't lecture her about it, right? If she's mad, you don't discuss it. She's taking care of it herself. That's wonderful. Very, 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 very good. Yeah, and I would say I would praise her for that. I say, good for you. You just need some quiet time to yourself. Good for you. Way to go. Oh, I would be all over that. Aren't you smart? Maybe I should do that more often. I would go on about that one. That's wonderful. Self-discipline. She's got control. Praise it.
Interesting. So in that instance, you would praise. Can you discuss that? Because you've talked before about how you think praise is overrated.
I knew you were going to do that. Now, praise is overrated because it's overused and play is underused. So I say replace a lot of the praise with play. Praise does not build self-esteem. It reinforces that you're on the right track. There's a difference. Play, fun, enjoying her company, enjoying his company with kids, that's what builds high self-esteem. If you think someone enjoys your company, that builds self-esteem. If someone wants to be with you, that makes you feel valuable. But if someone praises you, it's okay. It's not bad. But don't think that that's what builds self-esteem. I always use this example. You look at a 5-year-old little boy and you say to him, you're wonderful. You could do anything you want. You're smart. You're good looking. You're whatever. You're athletic. You could do anything you want. Now I'm going to go do the dishes. So go play. That kid, what did that just do for him? Nothing. You say to that same 5-year-old little boy, "Hey, what are you doing? Can I play too?" Watch his face. What makes him feel good? The praise or the interaction and play and fun? Fun is their love language. Praise is not. It's not my love language either. It doesn't do much for me at all. You can attest to that. Just isn't my thing. But sit and chat with me, laugh with me. That'll build me up. That's what I love. Okay, next.
Okay, we have Kelsey from Canada. Stay-at-home mom and homeschooler, so lots of fun time. 2.5-year-old doesn't care if a toy or food is taken, and putting him anywhere else, he finds fun and runs out. How do I give a consequence after I said no and he refuses to stop or fix whatever was done? Currently setting him behind the baby gate is the only thing, but timeouts and separation are not good. Question mark.
Yeah, he's not learning anything. He's just learning that you can overpower him. When he gets older, it might switch. So yeah, that I wouldn't recommend that. But you're putting him behind a gate. That's what I don't recommend. But taking a toy away or what was the other thing? Taking a toy away. There's two things.
Or food.
Or taking food away? Really?
It says doesn't care if a toy or food is taken.
Oh, I don't discuss using food with discipline, so I won't discuss that. I just don't discuss it. So taking a toy away. I'm going to challenge that. There must be something that he likes. And he runs away. Often when they run away and they don't seem to care, they still care. There's still a message there. If there's a toy that he likes to play with often and you put it away and he says, "I don't care," and he runs off, he probably still does care. Put it somewhere where he can see it but can't touch it. And then don't discuss it. Make sure he can see it, though. I think he'd probably care. There's a little bit of bravado there. "I don't care," and he runs away. I think it's a slow burn. You keep doing this enough, I think he will. You'll see. It'll make a difference. I'm guessing.
Okay, we have one final question. So Alex from the United States. 2-year-old, when and how do you teach sharing? Do I just remove them from each other and the toy? Isn't that like timeout?
No, you don't teach a 2-year-old how to share. You teach them how not to grab. So they don't have empathy or kindness so much yet. They might be a gentle little soul, but they don't really tend to have a lot of kindness yet. They haven't developed that. It's just it's something that it takes empathy to really be kind. And a 2-year-old doesn't usually have empathy. Empathy is when you relate to and want to help and understand other people's feelings. They don't tend to have that yet. They're not that developed. So you can teach them how not to grab. So what you do is if they grab a toy, you say no and you give it back to the other kid, then you hold them, just restrain them for a few minutes. And then when you put them back, you say, "Well, here, you can play with this instead." And if they go to grab again, you say no and you hold them again. They will eventually learn not to grab. There's a difference. So it's not that they're learning how to share so much, they're just learning how not to grab off other kids.
Okay, that was everything.
That was everything. Okay, I always forget the topic. What was it? Timeout. Yeah, there's 3. I'm just going to mention the other 2. There's 3 things that are commonly used as discipline that I hear about with my clients. And the top 3 are, the one I hate the most is the countdown method. It's when they're doing something naughty and you say, "You better stop by the time I count to 3. 1, 2, 2.5. You slow it down. And then they break. They stop hitting the dog or whatever they were doing, but there's no consequence for it. They've just learned I can pound the dog 100 times before you get to 3, and then there's no consequence anyway. So it's teaching them that it's okay to do the wrong thing in the short term, just not the long term. And it makes you look weak. It's inconsistent. So that's the worst one. The second worst one is the diversion. So if they're doing something naughty and you divert them away from it, this is when they're past the age of 3 especially. So you divert them away from it. Then you're never divert with broccoli. You're always diverting with something good, right? So here's a cupcake. Well, then they've learned that if I keep hitting the dog, I'll get a cupcake eventually. So diversion is based on the reward system. And then the last one is timeout. And we've gone on about that enough. So that's the least of the 3 that I dislike, but they're commonly used methods that are just useless. Anyway, that's it. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll be back again talking about parenting again soon. Happy parenting. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the Behavior Board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.